Okay, folks, welcome back to my reviews of Yaira #1. This is the second video in my review series on the Yaira #1, and we're going to be focusing on world building done wrong. I stopped in my past video, which complained about the lack of editors on Yaira #1, when I got to the pages where I felt like there was going to be a lot of new world building information coming into play, and I came away disappointed with that, and let me show you why. So we're going to start with the newscast that Yaira was watching, where she just got threatened over the news by Brian Solari, and now the newscaster recovers by saying, "Wow, exciting stuff." Now, on to the scene earlier this week when Projexus welcomed its newest member, the highly controversial and equally highly acclaimed biologist and archaeologist whom we feel is going to be an undeniable asset here at Projexus. Won't you please join me in welcoming to our team? And it's Dr. Sally Rodell. I didn't feel like putting in the next panel. So here we've got a press conference for a corporate new hire. I can't remember the last time I ever heard of such a thing. I used to work for a major corporation, and I don't remember ever hearing about a press conference given for any kind of hiring. That just didn't happen. And not only that, but it certainly didn't involve TV news coverage where you invited the major news networks to come and get a look at your new employee. Moreover, that news coverage would not have been such a major story that it would be featured multiple times in the same week on major TV news. Because you've got this newscaster saying this is a story from earlier this week. Why? Why is the hiring of Sally Rodell such a thing that it would require all this news coverage? Now, you might say, well, it says right there, Mike, that she's highly controversial, but she can't be that controversial. And the reason I say that is because no mention of the controversy is ever made. The newscaster never makes any mention of a controversy surrounding Sally Rodell. You never hear of any controversy at the press conference itself about her. And even the people who are talking behind her back in the scene after the press conference don't bring up any controversy. So this can't be that big of a controversy if we never hear anything about it. Moreover, all this is going on over a consultant. I mean, consultants have even less status than actual employees of the company. And the reason I know that she's a consultant is because ISOM #2 tells us. In ISOM #2, we see the interaction between Lincoln Eusebio and Sally Rodell in the parking garage, and he says, "You thought about accepting our offer?" Which means the offer to hire her on as an actual Projexus employee. And she says, "Oh, of course I've considered it, but the consultant role is working out perfectly. I do appreciate you carving me out my own space. The accommodation makes it difficult to decline." So she's decided that she doesn't want to come on as a full employee. She'd rather remain as a consultant. So why is it that she's being spoken of as if she were an actual Projexus employee now? See, this is a contradiction, and what's really sad is that you're looking at the people here who are supposed to be minding contradictions in continuity. These are the Soska Sisters. They wrote Yaira #1, and now this is the second time that they've ignored the contents of ISOM #2 and written something that contradicts the information that was in there. You'll find the previous contradiction in my prior video. My God, I mean, at some point, Eric is going to have to realize he hired the wrong people to mind the continuity of his comic book company. He's going to have to get somebody else on this job, because the Soska Sisters have shown twice now that they are not paying attention to details. Now, is there a fix for this apparent contradiction? Oh, there absolutely is. I mean, I'm an expert at rationalizing this kind of stuff. So let's just say that Sally's about to have a busy week. She's going to get hired on as a Projexus employee, and then at some point, something bad happens that causes her to quit Projexus in protest. And then, because of an emergency, she'll agree to consult for Projexus, and then the emergency will be over, and she'll decide to stay on in a consulting capacity, at which point Lincoln Eusebio will offer her her old job back, and she'll say, no, I prefer to just stay on as a consultant. And so that's a great way to resolve the apparent contradiction here. What would also be a great way to resolve apparent contradictions is to get competent people to mind your continuity so that these contradictions don't arise in the first place. So, hey, I don't care if the Soskas continue writing Yaira. I don't care if they're going to be writing Bloodruth. But you want to have somebody else minding your continuity because they've already proven themselves twice now not up to the task. So moving on to the actual press conference itself, here you have Sally Rodell giving her ideas on the struggles of creation and how all of these prior societies or things that used to live in the past don't give us any information today because they all died out, and so we need to look deeper into the past and find out ways that the past can influence some kind of crap. I don't know. This is all just kind of gobbledygook. I kind of get the general idea of it. But what really bugs me about this sequence of panels is that right down at the bottom, you have a perfect opportunity to do something that's left undone, and it's been left undone in most of the Rippaverse books. It's really annoying. These characters are sitting there unnamed. We don't know who they are. Who is the guy on the left? Who's the guy in the center? I mean, if you don't know him from ISOM number 2, you're not going to know him here. And you can't guarantee that people have read ISOM number 2. You can't even guarantee that the Soska Sisters have read ISOM number 2. And then you don't know the woman on the right. The reader coming in cold doesn't know any of these people. This is the perfect time to introduce them. Doesn't take much. Just put a couple of boxes up there and say, hey, these are these 3 people. Here are their relationships within Projexus Corporation. That's all. This isn't hand-holding. This is providing your readers with essential information. If you don't want your readers to know this, you're an idiot. Now, moving on to the tour that comes after the press conference, we have Lincoln Eusebio saying, welcome to the future, Dr. Rodell. Projexus is at the cutting edge of technology, and I feel with your outstanding expertise, we can step into the future by understanding our past. Hey, have you met Dr. Sally Rodell yet? What? Honk, screech. Hey, what? Hit the brakes there. What just happened? He's talking to Dr. Sally Rodell. Why is he saying, hey, have you met Dr. Sally Rodell yet? Oh, okay, I get it. He's talking to those guys down there. Well, here's an idea, letterer. Listen up, person who lettered this book. Why don't you take the portion of dialogue that actually applies to those people down there and move it down there? Moreover, scriptwriters, name the people he's talking to so that we realize that Lincoln is now talking to somebody else other than Sally. This is not hard. Now we'll get to the whispered conversation in the background where we have Jerry Manolfo and Altona Daniels talking about Sally Rodell. And Jerry stops off saying, an archaeologist, that's a bit archaic, isn't it? Which sounds like a dad joke. I don't really know if he's serious or not. She says, she's well studied, Jerry, but if you want to question her credentials, be my guest. No, that's not what I was saying. It's just an unusual area of expertise to pair with biology. Well, Dr. Rodell, from my understanding, is an unusual woman. Don't be threatened, Jerry. She's on our side. Okay, I bring up this dialogue, not because there's anything wrong with it, technically speaking, but this is where you want to explain what's controversial about her. They are talking behind her back about nothing, instead of talking behind her back about whatever it is that makes her highly controversial. You're missing an opportunity here to introduce the reason why there was a press conference in the freaking first place. I'm assuming it's this highly controversial thing that is putting her into the limelight like that, and now we still don't know what the controversy is. So, throw us a bone here, people. And now, after we've gone through all of this so far, we finally get to hear what is the purpose of Projexus Corporation. I've been wondering about that for some time. What does this company do? And now we finally know. To heal all disease, to live in perfect health without the fear of deterioration of the mind or our vital organs. Big dreams start small with new ideas and brave new technologies. Long life without deterioration is quite the dream. Super longevity, super wellness, and super intelligence, the cornerstones to unlocking human potential. Life is a delicate thing. It's created with a certain balance. Do you not fear improving one aspect will destabilize the design? A very keen observation, Dr. Rodell. I recall what happened to Icarus when he flew too close to the sun. But where would we be if men dared not to fly? Wait, what? Where would we be if men dared not to fly? Yeah, I don't think you dare not to do something dangerous. I don't think you dare not to skydive, you dare not to bungee jump. I think what he's trying to say is, where would we be if men dared not fly? That is the way you'd actually say that. Indeed, the struggle, pause for some reason, to survive beyond all odds is what it means to be human. Okay, we have no idea why she pauses right there, and it doesn't make any sense for her to pause right there, so let's just put the pause where it would make some sense. Indeed, the struggle to survive beyond all odds is what it means to be human. How poetic. Beautifully said. So we struggle on through this comic book. Okay. By the way, what are they looking at? I mean, they're all looking down through the glass at something. And do you know that we never get to see what that something is? They're looking down. All four of them their attention is riveted on something that's going on down there, and we don't even get to see what it is. So later on, we are brought to a room full of cryogenic chambers, and the first thing that I notice is you've got all the employees in clean suits. Now, clean suits are used in environments where if you have like dust and dirt and debris and bacteria and other small things, particles and such, you can contaminate whatever it is that you're working with. And so it's important that you wear those clean suits so that you are not risking getting any dirt or debris into whatever it is you're working on. Which I guess is why none of these people are wearing clean suits. Do you see a problem here? I mean, don't you think somebody should speak up and say something to the effect of, why are they wearing clean suits and we aren't? Aren't we risking contaminating something or other? And then somebody could come in and explain, well, we're just going through the motions of training our people in the right procedures right now. We don't actually have the sterility of this room established. Now, something like that, to make it make sense, because otherwise they've just walked in and contaminated a clean room. And, whatever. Not only that, but it's cold enough for people to see their breath. That's pretty freaking cold. And nobody mentions the cold. If you check out the dialogue, you will not see anyone mention how cold it is in there, except for Lincoln Eusebio, who's only describing it in terms of the research that they're doing. That's why we built the most advanced cryogenic laboratory this side of the hemisphere. This lab has the potential to reach absolute zero, without any of the staff inside, of course. Okay. Without any of the staff inside. So when he says this lab has the potential to reach absolute zero, does he mean the entire freaking room? Because I can understand if any one of those cryogenic chambers that I'm looking at there could reach absolute zero. That makes sense. But the entire room where his staff currently is, where they are, that big room, is that what he's saying can actually reach absolute zero? Because absolute zero is like negative 450 degrees Fahrenheit, right? How in the world would you cool down an entire room like that? That just makes. Why do I bother? And now we have some like minorly snippy dialogue between Altona and Sally Rodell, And that's the tour. I know it'll take some getting used to, but if you can make it to my office, I'll come to the rescue. But only for the first week, then you're on your own. You think you're going to be okay, Dr. Rodell? I always manage to find my way, Mrs. Daniels. It's Doctor, but please call me Altona. Sally, it's a pleasure to be working with you. It's just a little bit catty, but it's not really much anything. And then Lincoln Eusebio comes back, being all handsy and shit, and says, I love it. Already, no friendships blossoming. Sorry to end the tour in the subterranean level, but we've got to keep it cool. What? What does that mean? Sorry to end the tour in the subterranean level, but we've got to keep it cool. As opposed to ending it in the bedroom where it'd be hot and warm? What does that mean? Wow. Okay, so anyway, everything that you've seen up to this point is a great example of how to do world building the wrong way. What is the sequence of events that we have just seen so far? It is, first you introduce a character. Now this character is just the character, devoid of any connection to anyone else. And have that character describe her worldview, which doesn't serve to connect her to anything that's really going on. And then have another character show some petty concerns about the first character. And you've got Jerry Manolfo complaining about the fact that she's got degrees in both biology and archaeology, as if that's really weird or something. I mean, we don't learn anything about any of the characters that way. Then, after all that takes place, you explain the environment and context in which the characters exist and will be interrelating. It's kind of like, you just threw all these jigsaw pieces on the board, and now you're finally going through the trouble of making the outline of the jigsaw puzzle so that hopefully you can figure out where all those pieces fit in. And then last but not least, don't set up any potential conflict or anything, besides maybe some minor interpersonal friction, because we wouldn't want, there to be any actual tension or expectations of, characters coming into conflict with each other or anything like that. I mean, this has kind of been just a complete crap show as far as the world building goes, and I'm really freaking disappointed in it. Let me show you how to do world building the right way. First, you start with the environment. You introduce the environment and the context into which your characters will be placed and in which they will interrelate. You have to know where it is your characters are in a setting sense before you can really establish how they're going to be doing anything. I mean, if you start with two characters and they're going to be fighting each other or something, and you don't show that they're in a tournament, you don't show that they're in a boxing ring, you don't show that they're in a forest, you don't show that they're in a cave. It's just two characters fighting. It doesn't tell you anything. You need an environment first. You need to have something that establishes where your characters are and in what kind of framework they will be operating. Then you introduce your primary character and define its place in the environment and context. We're going to be, if the book is centering around a particular character, like Yaira number 1 is, then you want to introduce that character in such a way that the character is placed right in the spot that character needs to be. Excuse me. And then you will know from that kind of how the character fits in. Moreover, you can introduce other characters and then define their relative positions to the primary character. You know, who are these supporting characters? How do they relate with her within the environment that you've defined? And lastly, through the characters' interactions, you define the characters' interrelationships and their sources of potential conflict. You know, by the way the characters behave toward each other, how do you see these characters coming into conflict in the future? Are these characters friends? Are they enemies? Are they frenemies? Are they, romantically involved? Is somebody a sleazebag? Is somebody a really upstanding person? These have the characters interact in such a way as to reveal things about them. So let's go through, and here is the fanfic part of the segment. And let's do world building the right way with this scene from Yaira #1, the press conference scene and beyond. First thing we're going to do is we're going to introduce the environment and context into which your characters will exist and interrelate. How are we going to do that? By having Lincoln Eusebio start by introducing Projexus instead of introducing Sally Rodell. Here's how we'll do that. Projexus Corporation, as y'all know, is about life. Longer life. Better life. Life free from disease and deterioration. Human potential maximized. That's been my dream ever since my accident opened my eyes to just how easily that potential can be cut short. I founded Projexus hoping to help others bounce back from adversity like I did and take their future by the horns. But lately I've come to realize that Projexus' focus on the future has blinded it to the resources the past has to offer. So I made an invitation. Now we can introduce the primary character. But you see now, in this section, we now know what Projexus Corporation is about. So now we can start asking the question, how are all these other characters going to fit in with the Projexus plan? We know what the purpose of the corporation is. How do these characters serve that purpose? So now we get a chance to introduce Sally Rodell and how she's going to serve the purpose or fit into the purpose of Projexus. I invited one of the leading authorities on except biology and ancient except theory to join Projexus and bring both past and present into the service of the future. Members of the press, I give you Dr. Sally Rodell. Sally Rodell gets up and gives a speech that can still have some of that struggle of creation stuff in there, but it also has to define the controversy that surrounds her, because that has been mentioned. I'd like to thank Mr. Eusebio for his gracious invitation, but first and foremost for having an open mind. While my theories on the origins of excepts and their presence in our ancient past have yet to face any serious scientific challenge, I recognize his courage in giving my views a chance to influence progress toward a better tomorrow. So now we've defined what some of that conflict is that's already surrounding her. What is the controversy that she's been embroiled in? Well, she's got these scientific theories that seem kind of whack to the rest of the scientific community, even though they haven't been successfully disproven as yet. Now we can introduce other characters and define their relative positions to the primary character. In fact, we already did this back when we added these boxes that just basically said, hey, here are these characters and here are their positions within Projexus. Okay, now you know. And then lastly, through the characters' interactions, define the characters' interrelationships and sources of potential conflict. Now here we have Jerry Manolfo actually talking about something relevant instead of this whole biology archaeology thing. Please tell me this is just a stunt to boost our stock. He doesn't really buy her shtick, eh? You know Lincoln, Jerry. He'll chase every rabbit in the universe down any hole, no matter how deep or dark or wet. Yes, I know all about our leader's penchant for chasing tail. I see this drink of water is extra tall. Jerry, can I have one day without your giving me a reason to call human resources? How do you not leave a trail of slime? So now here we have Jerry Manolfo bringing to the fore what will be the conflict between, or actually multiple conflicts between him and Sally Rodell. For one thing, he doesn't believe in her theories. He thinks that she's a crackpot. For another thing, he thinks that Lincoln hired her because she's a piece of ass. So there's a problem in the respect department. He's also kind of a slimeball himself, and he's likely to wind up in the HR department if he's not too careful. But this kind of gives a further fleshing out of who his character is. Now, when Sally Rodell interacts with Altona, then we can set up a conflict between the two of them. Let me level with you, Dr. Rodell. As CTO, I've spent blood, sweat, and tears building this cryogenics program. If any fancy ideas of yours undercut what I've struggled to create, I'll take it personally. Message received loud and clear, Mrs. Daniels. Well, it's Doctor, but please call me Altona. Sally, it's a pleasure to be working with you. So now, you actually have a real conflict here. Altona does not want to see the work that she has put into Projexus derailed by anything that Sally is going to bring to the table. And then Lincoln comes in. Looks like you two are already working on ways to combine your fields of expertise. I like synergy. How about we try synergizing over dinner tonight? I'm buying. Hands, Lincoln, hands. Is this that Texas hospitality? And the reason I put this together in this way is because I also wanted to make them enemies in the one panel, but I also wanted to make them allies in this panel, because they're working women in a largely man's world, and they're having to deal with a handsy boss. And so they have the opportunity to be both friends and enemies at the same time. Friends on the level of, sisterhood, and then enemies on the level of their conflicting paradigms and visions for where the company should go. So that is my discourse on Yaira number 1 and all the world building done wrong in it. I'm just kind of tepid on the book so far. I mean, it's still tighter than ISOM number 1 and number 2 and Alpha Core number 1 have been, but it's also kind of tepid as well. I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of boring me right now. and I'm just disappointed that they're not investing enough effort into structuring the book the way that they could. The way that they could bring more information to bear and to bring more character relationships to bear. It's like, honestly, when the Soska Sisters wrote the Black Widow book, I think somebody suggested that the Soska Sisters turned in a script, but then the Marvel editors just edited the hell out of it to make it into something that was actually printable. And the more I go through Yaira number 1, the more I tend to think that's probably the case. I'm not sure that these writers are ready for prime time yet. But we'll see. We've still got a ton of pages to go, if I'm not mistaken. Yaira is about a 90-page book, and we're only about 10 pages in. So we will see where the book goes next. Please do subscribe if you have not already, so that you can be notified when the next review of Yaira number 1 comes out. I'm Mike Partika. Thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later.